Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Really honored to be here because I know there are a lot of bright minds and enormous amount of energy in this room that has been engaged in transforming cities and transforming various parts of our globe. I know we've got folks from all around the world, so I'm really honored to be here. As you can tell, the politician is usually the only guy in the room in Silicon Valley with a tie on. That would be me. Nonetheless, I do my best to fit in. So I tried to do my best to fit in. Let me see here if I actually use the button. That will help. Good. I tried my best to fit in with Silicon Valley by writing a little book and putting it online when I was running for mayor. And it's called Safer City, Smarter Government. I'm sure you've all read it. I think we sold 4 copies, and my family member grabbed 3 of those. But it is coming out in a movie next year, and Brad Pitt will play me. The focus is really on the opportunities in San Jose, the 10th largest city in the country, over 1 million people now, although some of you may not know that, because frankly, we don't bat our weight. Many would say we might be bigger than San Francisco, Boston, DC, many other cities, but we have not quite lived up to the extraordinary opportunity, particularly around innovation, that surrounds us here in Silicon Valley. And so my ambition is to enable San Jose to move to the next level and really recognizing that there's something unique about cities right now at this moment in time. As we think about the big challenges of our globe, as we think about poverty, as we think about climate change, as we think about crime, and really the most innovative solutions throughout the world are coming from cities. They're coming from mayors, they're coming from civic entrepreneurs in the private sector who are helping cities tackle issues ranging from how to get off the grid and focus on renewables to being able to utilize technology in ways that moves people off the street and out of creeks into permanent housing. Those are the challenges that cities are grappling with that I think we all agree legislatures throughout the world have a more difficult time with. Cities are more pragmatic, we're less partisan, we're more focused on results because we're actually responsible when problems are created. We actually have to fix things and not simply argue about them. And so I think there's great opportunity in cities, and a lot of folks are recognizing that, particularly in the entrepreneur community, where we're seeing so much civic innovation. And one key area, of course, is around civic engagement. And it's where Luke Holman and Conteneo have been really deeply engaged with us in figuring out how we can better engage our community to create an open source city hall. Civic engagement, here's one definition offered by one expert, but I think we have a lot of different ideas. Fundamentally, for me in San Jose, it's recognizing that we live in the most innovative community in the globe. We ought to take advantage of that. And we ought to see how we can engage the ideas and energy all around us. We have actually quite a history well before the extraordinary technology boom you've seen all around us. San Jose has been a city that has aimed to try to bring people into City Hall in new and creative ways. We had an effort called the Strong Neighborhoods Initiative that created essentially mini councils throughout the city, identifying some of the poorest neighborhoods where people could come together, talk about how we could battle crime and blight and other issues in those communities, devoting over $120 million over a period of years back in the good old days when we had this thing called the Redevelopment Agency, which the state eliminated a few years ago. And this budget games initiative started a few years ago, and Luke was there at the start, helping us see how we could engage our residents, particularly our neighborhood leaders, in better prioritizing our scarce resources in each budget cycle, and that has impacted decision-making in significant ways. And as we grappled with the enormous deficits and challenges through the Great Recession a few years ago, this was particularly valuable because obviously as decision makers, I recognize the role of elected officials in tough times is really nothing more than redistributing pain. And being able to say we've engaged with the community and these are the community's priorities enables us to make those decisions much more effectively, and frankly, much more safely. And that's important if you're an elected official. Now, we also know we've got to actually restore services too. And we've been working hard to do that in San Jose with a fair amount of success in the last year or two. I just came into office about a year ago. Of course, I take full credit for the great recovery that has helped us restore our services. Since it rained yesterday, I'm going to take credit for ending the drought as well. One of the things that we're doing as we think about civic engagement is we are launching participatory budgeting. And this is a cool little idea that launched, I think, in the town of Curitiba, Brazil. Is that what it was, I believe? I'm sorry. Yes, Porto Alegre, thank you. Curitiba was another innovation. A lot of great innovations come out of Brazil. Porto Alegre, and it was about a decade ago, a little more than that. And this is an idea that is now spreading around the globe. How do you actually put a pot of money into the middle of a table and engage people directly in direct democracy in deciding what the priorities are, letting the legislative body, in this case the city council, get their hands off the money and let the people decide. It's a very risky proposition, certainly. They may come up with better ideas than we have. For me, the important thing is less about the money, and it's more about the fact that people are getting around a table. Because now we're engaging people who now believe, rightfully, that their decisions matter, that their deliberations matter, that their engagement with one another matters. It's not simply the conversation between them and City Hall back to them, but a conversation among the community and how can that transform the city. So in this case, we put $100,000 on the table, and folks are focusing on how they can identify projects that are important in District 3. That's why it's called D3 Decides. It's the downtown district. And what is particularly interesting from a policymaker standpoint is how you can actually make dollars go farther when you get people around a table, because we know when you get engaged people involved in this, they have networks of volunteers and neighborhood associations and school groups and so forth and churches. And they say, well, you know what? We can actually work with Kaboom if you guys give us a few bucks and we'll build the child playground in the park. We just need the money to help us get some of the equipment. Or maybe we just need the equipment to do the cleanup, we'll do the cleaning. All of a sudden, things start to change. The money becomes a means for people to engage not just around that table, but engage more meaningfully in their neighborhoods. So D3 Decides is very promising. It's off to a great start. They're going to come back with all their proposals, in a few weeks, Lee? Yep. All right, and then we're going to move forward, and we're also starting it in a second district, and hopefully we'll go citywide very soon. Related to this, participatory budgeting is an exercise we're going to engage in on Saturday. It's our first foray into what we call, what some have called zero-based budgeting. We're actually taking a big piece of our $2.5 billion budget, not so big a piece, but at least, was it $60 or $70 million, Lee? $4 million. Okay, whenever I don't know an answer, you'll see me looking at Lee or Shireen. It's good to have smarter people than you working at City Hall, because they'll tell you what's going on. So we took $64 million out of our $2.5 billion budget that we focus on entirely on blight and aesthetics in our city. Everything from cleaning graffiti to maintaining parks, whatever it might be, put it into the pool, and we're asking community leaders, neighborhoods, to tell us, with the help of technology that enables them to express their preferences in new ways, how can we better address these issues that you're so familiar with. So there's a whole lot of initiatives. I'm not going to go down all this list about how we can better engage with our community, but technology is often a critical tool around all these. And let me just talk about one on this list. Well, I'll mention we are launching our open data policy very soon. It's already out for public comment, and the platform has already existed. We are bolstering it considerably, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about open data platforms in other cities throughout the country. What I think is really interesting is the third bullet is neighborhood dashboard. The familiar sort of traditional app that many cities have is if you see graffiti, you take a photo of it, you snap push a button, it goes to the central office, they go out and fix the graffiti. If it's a little more advanced, then you'll get a note from the city telling you that they got the graffiti within 48 hours. That's a good thing. So certainly that communication is important, but that's an early stage, early generation. We know, however, that it's not just that one person who saw that graffiti. Lots of people saw that graffiti, and they're all ticked off about it. And so naturally, you have 37 people sending the same photo to the same central office. And wouldn't it be nice if they all knew that somebody already complained about it? And wouldn't it be nice if they knew that the city already responded and said, hey, give us a week, we need to get somebody out there on the bridge to clean it up? Or in the case of a park bench that's broken, that needs to be repaired in the city park. So we can take this a step further with neighborhood dashboard that will engage people in understanding not just what gripe has been made to City Hall and what response is coming back, but can we start a conversation among community members within a neighborhood about whatever gripe it might be, so that they can decide, well, you know what? The city says that the part's on order and it's going to take 4 weeks for them to repair this bench. Why don't we get together at 9 o'clock on Saturday and we'll fix it ourselves? Can we engage people that way on a single platform, utilizing, of course, the best Microsoft products? Give a plug for our sponsor. Maybe on a Google Map platform, something like that. And enable people to recognize what gripes have been registered in their community and maybe how we can talk to each other about those within a community. So a lot of exciting opportunities. We're working on this dashboard now with a lot of smart folks, and I'm sure you'll see a fabulous result in the year ahead. So a big part of this all surrounds our Office of Strategic Partnerships, which is really leading all this. I came into office at the beginning of last year and decided we really had a City Hall that was really too inward-facing. We had gone through some really tough times. We lost about a third of our employees through the Great Recession. And yes, this is in Silicon Valley where we're all supposed to have a lot of money. Well, guess what? The city had been broke and had been broke for a long time. We had multi-billion-dollar pension obligations, huge unfunded liabilities for infrastructure, et cetera. Naturally, I've fixed none of those things yet. We're working on it. But it became really obvious that if we were going to be able to restore services and really engage with people, we needed to be more outward-facing. We need to be able to leverage the expertise of the private sector, of foundations, and we need to leverage more resources, of course. And so we created this office. Again, the lesson being hire people a lot smarter than you. Con Russo, a smart guy, came over from Cisco Foundation to head it up. We got a brilliant director of innovation on board. I'm sorry, that's not your title. It's Chief Innovation Officer. I'm going to get this straight. Shireen Santasham, by way of Harvard Business School and McKinsey and all these other great organizations. So she's helping us plot out our innovation strategy. And Lee Wilcox is working through our budget office on more innovative approaches. All of this is an effort to see how we can reach out in the community and bring the community into City Hall and help us leverage the financial resources and, of course, sophistication and expertise. So we got a lot of strategic partners. Good news is there's a lot of folks who are interested in getting engaged in cities and particularly in using San Jose as a laboratory for civic innovation in various ways. We're well positioned, obviously, in this region, but more than anything, we are pushing hard to create sort of an open source City Hall where folks will recognize that they can innovate on our streetscape, they can experiment within our buildings, and we'll simply let them play around with it and figure it out, beta test, prove the concepts, prototype, and then hopefully launch products that can help other cities throughout the world. Literally, we're taking pieces of our street infrastructure several blocks at a time and telling BMW and Cisco, let's see what happens when a smart car intersects with a smart intersection and how they can communicate well. How we can take a portion of our sidewalk and engage with materials innovators who are creating a concrete with no GHG emissions in the manufacturing process. All kinds of cool stuff, some of it more interesting than others, but all with a central focus of really enabling folks to be innovative within our city and our willingness to accept failure and to fail forward and try new things. Private, nonprofit, public sector partners, particularly important on those nonprofit partners, certainly many prominent foundations, but really our universities. We've got incredible universities all around us. I know you're all familiar with the Stanfords and UC Berkeleys. You may be less familiar with the fact that San Jose State University provides more engineers to our Silicon Valley than all the other universities combined. We've got great resources here, and we've got to take advantage of them. Oh, we got Spartans. Go Spartans. I used to teach that. I got you. All right. So the need for smart cities is driven by certainly more than just a desire to be cool, although we do aspire to be cool. There's a fundamental reality that we're facing cities throughout the country of growing demands, growing need, declining fiscal resources. The feds gave up on cities a long time ago. The state's got its own challenges, and we've got huge infrastructure needs, deferred maintenance. We know that it's not going to get easier going forward, so we have to do things differently. And we've got to start using tools to be more effective. We also are seeing a citizenry that is increasingly expecting more out of cities in terms of responsiveness, in terms of the use of technology, and they're using it every day on their mobile apps, and they're wondering why we're not using the same technology. And the good news is we've got the technology all around us, and the cost is dropping enormously, particularly in the space around the Internet of Things and infrastructure that's enabling us to start to create enormous pools of data that we can mine for a lot of positive change. So that brings me to the question of our open data platform and what we think we can do here. Forgive me. We are, like many cities, we've had an open data platform for some time. We're really leveraging the analytics capacity of a lot of partners to help us understand how we can better use the data that's all around us. So what we've already been working on, for example, is projects that are helping us identify where the hot spots of dumping are, for example, in the community, so we can better route garbage trucks to get to those hot spots and eliminate the blight where it's starting. We're taking on next generation crime, predictive crime programs. That is analytics that enables us to anticipate where hot spots of property crime are likely to be so we can better deploy police officers. Looking at where we anticipate the highest risk areas are for building fires so we can better deploy fire marshals to get out there, talk to residents, and make sure they've got smoke detectors and even retrofitting for sprinklers. We are working with our transportation department on a vision to see how we can eliminate deaths of pedestrians and cyclists by 2020. Not an easy task, we'll be the first to admit. And what we've been learning through our data is that we can identify 13 corridors in the city where over half of our injury accidents are happening. So clearly, we can really focus our resources in those areas. I'm sorry, sir?
I love that you do data open by default. Are you having hackathons and all that, focusing on that open data?
Yeah, we've actually started, and I know hackathons have been all the rage for several years. We got a little behind on that, and we just launched a couple this year. I should say in 2015. Certainly will be more. And we'd like to see if we can maybe even take it beyond the hackathon because, yeah, yes.
Because that's done.
Yeah, it's been done, yeah. And so we think there's better ways of targeting folks to get them more engaged without just sort of the random, hey, in 3 hours, tell us how we're going to solve this really tough problem. Yeah, so more to come, but really the primary mechanism is going back to, well, it's on a different slide. We've actually created a Mayoral Innovation Fellows program where we're basically inviting people into City Hall. These are very bright graduate students. These are civic-minded folks in tech who want to take a break for a year. And we're bringing them into City Hall and saying, here's all the data we got. Here's some problems. Can you use this data to help us solve one of these? So we think by that more focused, concentrated effort, we all appreciate that ADHD tends to inhabit our valley, but we also recognize real problem solving takes real work over an extended period of time.
But you could also link it into schools that are more or less having coding as a learning to
Agreed.
Having real world data from you would really help them as a
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we haven't really pushed hard enough in going younger than the university level, where I think you're right, there could be great opportunities for partnerships and learning. We are very engaged with San Jose State and Santa Clara University, where we've got teams of students and professors working really hard, helping us both build out the portal and be able to analyze the data.
Mayor, San Jose has just an awesome opportunity from the bottom up. And San Francisco's got their program, but they're so disconnected from the problems. And I think San Jose has, you're exhibiting so many ground up approaches. It's interesting to see how can local tech hire really be, from the community and create these solutions instead of like trying to source from the top and folks maybe, they're into data and things, but they're not collaborative. And you're here talking to us today about co-design, we're here talking about co-design and collaborative innovation that can be missed. Before you spoke, we were talking about this is the middle class, and 80 to 90% of the middle class are being missed.
Yep.
And emerging markets. And those emerging markets think differently. It's not going to be the folks that, are in an ivory tower somewhere and then they come out here and they're going to solve the world's problems.
Yeah.
But the idea is to understand from your perspective, how is economic development and tech and the local folks that live in San Jose in these neighborhoods that are challenged come to solve these problems in City Hall?
Yeah, great question. And you mentioned an important initiative of the Obama administration that folks may not be aware of, Tech Hire, which we're a tech hire city. Basic focus is seeing how we can provide pathways to tech jobs and tech-enabled jobs for folks who don't have college degrees. And we all know if you've got a college degree in Silicon Valley, particularly if it's in tech, you're in great shape. How do we reach out to the great majority of folks who don't? And you're right, it is a...
folks that do,
yes.
that are hitting
the ceiling.
That ceiling.
Yep.
Because we have a lot of folks in San Jose, particularly the Latino population, that are amazing, techies.
Yep.
But that aren't getting the opportunities because somehow they're being overlooked.
Yep, no, great point. And there's a huge need for diversity, we know, in our tech companies right now. And so this is an opportunity where Need and Opportunity can meet. With our tech hire strategy, we're working with a lot of partners in a lot of different ways. Okay, I got 5 minutes, I'll hurry up. With a lot of partners in a lot of different ways, but let me just describe one that I think is particularly ground up that I think can be very helpful. We know that we need our tech embassies to define the skills and the jobs that would be appropriate for those skills. So that's a big piece of it. And Microsoft and Google and other companies have been really helpful in that. What the next piece is obviously getting folks those skills. So we're trying to transform our libraries, which are really kind of the most accessible level of government, right? Everyone's got a library in their neighborhood. Nobody feels too intimidated to walk into a library. If you don't have legal status here, nobody feels like they're going to get chased out of the library. That's an easy way, an easy portal for folks to get in. So we partnered with Robert Half International and a couple other companies to see how we could upgrade and create opportunities for online learning, multiple languages, for everything from coding to accounting to English as a second language through the libraries, and create essentially career skills training centers within our libraries. And there's been, I know many people in this room are very familiar with all the innovations that are happening in educational software today. From Khan Academy on up, there's great opportunity if we can get people over that digital divide to sit down in front of a computer with the help of a librarian who's a lot friendlier than many other city employees like cops. We have wonderful cops, but people find some of our city employees more intimidating than others. And being able to really have an opportunity to boost those skills. Now, obviously, that's one of many approaches we're going to need because we know human beings are complex and there's a lot of entry points you're going to need. But I agree, it's going to take a bottom up. And I appreciate your insights about how we can do a better job of broadening the opportunity there. So I think I killed you guys with every PowerPoint slide I could find here. Yeah, okay. So then, of course, so the job ahead is a pretty simple one. We need to become America's most innovative city by 2020. That gives us 5 years. We only hired Shireen like 2 months ago. So she's like 5 years behind already. So hopefully she'll get going soon. But she's working hard. And the good news is we're going to try to get other employees in City Hall, the other 6,000 employees, to help her. And more importantly, we're going to try to get 1 million people in the city of San Jose to help her. So that's the task ahead. Hello.
Yeah, quick question. One of the challenges most cities have is that they tend to appear like an island. What is San Jose doing about actually learning from other cities who had dealt with some of these problems, whether they're in the local geography or even much more international, we're seeing it from a different perspective. Otherwise, we're just doing the same thing over again.
Yeah, great question. So Shireen and Lee were showing me some slides before we had, and one of them was on a study session we were doing, where we invited cities throughout the country to talk about best practices with the rest of the council, because I'm trying to get this council fired up about civic innovation. And of course, I told them, I'll take that slide out, it'll be useless. And now you're asking the question. So that is one mechanism, obviously, inviting the thought leaders in. We had Sonal Shah, who's an expert at Georgetown University, come talk about what she was doing, and then really smart folks, Jay Nath from San Francisco, folks from New York and elsewhere. There's a lot of learning to be done, and we know there's great innovations happening in cities, not just here, but in Tel Aviv and Stockholm. I've been spending time.
Paris is a big.
Yes.
Paris has a big and growing participatory budgeting initiative too.
Yes. Yes, and I know you guys have been out in front on several initiatives. We actually stole your idea on bike share. So I'm a big believer in stealing good ideas. So I've been spending time, I was in London a couple months ago with the Bloomberg Foundation, learning about what's going on in cities throughout the globe. Shireen's always on the road doing the same thing. It's really about listening.
Hopefully you don't adopt the London experience of putting cameras every 1 mile.
No, we're not.
You don't become a police state because of that.
Yes, I mean, the good news is we don't have the historic challenges with terrorism in our city and all that, so I can appreciate we don't need to be there. The one thing I will say, and I'm being...
Your car's
told
waiting for you.
I'm done.
Your car's
Okay.
waiting for you. Sorry.
Okay, I won't tell you any more then. But it's been a lot of fun. Thank you.